So you didn't find our complete list of Panasonic S1R Mark II leak specs to be complete enough? You want to know more about the bit rates, codecs, and dynamic range? If the S1R Mark II actually has a low pass filter, and when the thing's going to be available for pre-order, and when it's going to ship? Well, I'll answer these questions and more in this video. But first, I have a simple and yet humble request. Please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps this channel grow, and it keeps you informed on the latest camera gear like the S1R Mark II. Some of you weren't too happy with my latest complete list of specifications for the Panasonic S1R Mark II. The resolutions and frame rates didn't go into enough detail as to what bit rates, whether it was H.264, H.265, where we could expect to see Apple ProRes RAW and Apple ProRes. Was it in 8K or not? And what about that low pass filter, dynamic range, and ISO? Is it going to be dual native ISO, triple native ISO? And what are the settings? Well, if that was your comment or your overall feeling from the previous video, then this video's for you. So let's cue up some Gerald Undone type specifications. The Panasonic S1R Mark II doesn't have a low pass filter. The S1R Mark II doesn't have a low pass filter, but there is something else in the sensor specifications that caught my attention. Two resolutions, 44.3 and 45.9. So why do we have two completely different resolutions for the sensor? Well, based on what I've seen with previous cameras, the most likely reason is 45.9 megapixels is the maximum output of the sensor, whereas 44.3 is the actual usable resolution of the sensor. Now, why does this matter? Well, when I talk about Apple ProRes in the next section, it's going to be quite evident. Apple ProRes and ProRes RAW is available in H.264 and H.265 with the following aspect ratios: 4:3, 3:2, 65:24, 1:1, and 2:1. But now for the resolutions. Do you remember in the last section when I talked about sensor resolution being 44.3 versus 45.9 megapixels and why it makes a difference? Well, this is where the rubber hits the road. The Panasonic S1R Mark II can't do 8K DCI, not based on what I can see. The highest resolution that it can do is 8.1K UHD, which is a resolution of 8128 by 4288, which isn't too far away from 8K DCI, which has a resolution of 8192 by 4320. 8.1K, which is UHD, is just 1344 pixels away from DCI 8K. That's a little bit puzzling to me. I looked over the specifications, and again, based on what's been presented to us, that's my analysis. But there's something that I fear that maybe we're not being given a full, complete list of specifications. Andre's been doing a very good job of trickling information over the past couple of days and weeks, and maybe this is one of those items that's been left off. But as we saw in a previous post, Andrea also said that some of the specifications, such as OpenGate at certain resolutions, well, they would be coming in a firmware update. So with a sensor resolution of 45.9 megapixels, 45.9 megapixels is more than enough to deliver 8K DCI. We see this on the Canon EOS R5 and the Nikon Z8. The only thing that throws me off here is that the sensor resolution mentions two different resolutions. 44.3, which can't do 8K DCI, and 45.9, which could. So if 44.3 is the usable resolution, and there's no way for Panasonic to actually scrape an additional 1300 pixels, well, so that covers off 8.1K, which is UHD. And 8K UHD, well, it has a resolution of 7680 by 4320. Now, for the rest of the resolutions, let's see how well I've memorized them to my head.
Look at the size of that boy's head. Shh. I'm not kidding, it's like an orange on a toothpick.
So we have 6.4K at 6432 by 4288, 5.9K by 5888 by 3312, and 5.8K by 5760 by 3040. Okay, so far so good. Let's see if I can get into 4K and nail those properly. So we have 4K, both DCI and UHD. Now DCI is 4320 by 2160, and UHD 4K is 3840 by 2160. Okay, slight mistake there, but I corrected myself, and the last resolution that I have available to us is Full HD, which is 1920 by 1080. No mention at all of 720p. May that resolution rest in peace.
That was a hell of a thing.
Apple ProRes is only available in 5.8K, DCI 4K, 3.3K, and Full HD. That being said, this is based on leaked information that we've received to date, and I really do believe the source of this information, everything that Andrea Pizzini has been telling us to date, is pretty much bang on, and then of course we had that leaked press release. However, and this is a big however here, the information that we're getting so far, from what I can see, isn't 100% complete. So as I get more information, I can update the information. And also, on Tuesday, when we actually get a production model being announced, we could get updated information. And then there's that future planned firmware update to deliver OpenGate to more resolutions and refresh rates. That could change the specifications even further. But now let's go ahead and talk about All-I or All-Intra. I don't have the information for 5.8, 5.9, 6K, 8.1, or 8K. Now that could mean it's not available, but again, we don't know. I just have it for 4K, 3.3K, and 1080. You ready? Okay, so for 4K DCI, it's 800 megabits per second. 4K UHD, it's 600 megabits per second. 3.3K, 400. And for 1920 by 1080, otherwise known as Full HD, as opposed to HD, which is 720, we're looking at 200 megabits per second. Yesterday I told you that the Panasonic S1R Mark II has confirmed 14 stops of dynamic range. But today we find out there's a bit of a caveat there. You get 14 stops of dynamic range with dynamic range expansion turned on. With it turned off, you get 13 stops of dynamic range. But again, this is something that's very important to notice or to be aware of. This is what's being told to us by the manufacturer. Is this actually closer to what real standard testing, industry testing shows us? That's a whole nother question. With the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, which I happen to have with me right here, this camera, according to Canon, delivers 16 stops of dynamic range. And I have to admit, with Canon Log 2, it looks really, really good. It looks better, noticeably better than the Mark I. However, using those same industry standard tests, they found it was able to deliver more like 13.5 stops of dynamic range. Now, the results are still very good because those same industry standard results previously with the Mark I, they were significantly lower. And those same tests point this to being in the top 7 of all stills hybrid cameras, mirrorless cameras on the marketplace. So when Panasonic says 14 stops with dynamic range expansion on or 13 stops off, are those industry standard tests or Panasonic tests? And that's what we'll have to wait and see. And well, once we have the reviews, once this is in hand, once the embargo's lifted, we should get answers to some of those questions. But it might take a few weeks until we actually get to see some of those industry standard tests performed. But it's important to note that Red has a very similar technology and the Red V-Raptor X and XL, going from 17 stops to 20 stops of dynamic range. But as you'd imagine, there are certainly some drawbacks, such as more noise and some artifacts that can be produced in some scenes, especially if you have a lot of moving subjects or objects. Or a perfect example, and that's why I like to shoot with All-I or even RAW, is if you're shooting any sort of moving water, snow or rain. Long GOP or any of those predictive codecs, they just can't predict things very well. And if you want to test this out for yourself, shoot snow, or even better, shoot rain, but with half the scene showing the rain coming down and the other half the scene showing rain hitting a puddle. And what you'll notice is those predictive analytics that predict the next frames, they're not bang on. But for the rest of us, most of us, it's not going to be an issue. So the question you have to ask yourself is, Do you want more stops of dynamic range? Is that more important to you? Or is it the integrity of what you're shooting to produce a cinematic experience that is true to life? Well, I'll leave that up to you. Far from me to tell you what you should be looking for. I'm just letting you know what the specifications are based on what is leaked out to date. We'll get to the ship date and the pre-order date in just a moment, but first I have just a few more rather notable specifications to cover. Dual native ISO, no triple native ISO, and you have 3 options: high, low, and auto. This next one, the shutter speed, is a bit of a surprise to me. Maximum of 1/8,000th of a second. Now, according to the leaked specifications, that's electronic. Now, I'm really surprised. Now, I don't expect them to go anything crazy like the Sony A9 Mark III, which can do something like 80,000 or 1/80,000th of a second. But I would expect to see something along the lines of, well, 1/16,000th of a second. But it doesn't do it. All right, and now for the shipment pre-order date. As I told you yesterday and a few days before, we now have confirmation that Panasonic is making the announcement on Tuesday, February the 25th, at, you ready for this? 2 p.m. London time. That works out to be 9 a.m. Eastern time. Not Eastern Daylight, this is Eastern time. That's where we get the announcement of the Panasonic S1R Mark II. And what's really important to note is just an hour before that, we have a Sigma announcement. And I'm going to be covering these announcements live starting at 7:30 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. We'll start off covering Sigma, then we'll move right into Panasonic, and we might even flip-flop depending on what comes out, because based on what I'm seeing on today's news story, Sunday's news story, I wasn't expecting that video to do well. I almost pulled it off, but it's turning out to be one of the top videos of the last 2 weeks. So join me with my expert panel Tuesday morning starting at 7:30, where we talk about the latest and greatest, who this camera is for, and I'll actually have a director of photography with us, so definitely stay tuned for that. So that's when we'll be able to do the pre-orders. Now the pre-order most likely will happen sometime right after they start their announcement at 9 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes they delay a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to follow and let you know as soon as the embargo is lifted, which is why throughout this entire video we've had our smart pre-order links in the description. These guys right here for B&H and Adorama. So why would you consider using these pre-order links instead of just going to the websites yourself and refreshing them? Well, if you go ahead and copy these down, put them in your browser and bookmark them, it's going to do one of 2 things. One, because you've already got them ready and you're ready to go, you're going to save yourself anywhere from 5 to 35 seconds. And it won't just show you the body alone, it'll show you any kit package it offered, and that's going to help save you time. So that way, you're going to get your product earlier than you would have. And based on what we saw with the Canon EOS, this Canon RF 200 to 800 millimeter, people who pre-ordered on the day of, not right away though, they waited a few hours, had to wait as many as 8 to 10 months. So since 2020, pre-orders, if you're on the fence about this, what you definitely want to go, pre-order it, pay attention to the ship date, watch the reviews, think about it, and if you want to cancel, there's nothing lost. And if you decide not to cancel, well, you're already in the queue. You'll get yours within the first few hours, days, or even weeks. So when will it start shipping? Well, Panasonic isn't going to pull a Canon on us here. They're going to start shipping it pretty soon. I'm told it's a March ship date. Now, with Tuesday being the 25th, March is less than a week away. I don't know if it's going to be the beginning of March, middle of March, or the end of March. But you could have. Imagine for a moment that this is the Panasonic S1R Mark II. Just imagine you could have this in your hands, March. And that's a pretty big deal. One other thing I want to mention though, if you do use my smart pre-order links, it's the same as an affiliate link. I do get a small commission back, which can be anywhere from 2 to 5%. And that quite literally keeps the lights on. It's what keeps this channel going. You'll notice that I don't have any sponsorship ads at the beginning of this video, and I hate them. I really do. If I can come up with a sponsorship that kind of blends in the background, that doesn't, how should we say, what's the term they refer to in marketing? They don't hinder the customer experience. And I think most sponsorship ads, they started off being like 5 seconds, then 15, and now some of them are going up to 3 to 5 minutes. And it's not for me, and I don't think it's for you based on what I've heard from the feedback. So please join me live 7:30 Tuesday morning for live coverage of the Panasonic S1R Mark II, as well as the big Sigma announcement Not exactly sure what we're getting here. It could be any number of things. It could be an 800mm f6.3, something different. But Sigma has told us, their CEO in December, that they're working on something that no one's ever seen before. No Sigma customers ever seen before, or the market as a general. And are they playing on things? Could it be an 800F4, for example, instead of a 5.6 or a 6.3? And that's a silly example because the cost, if they could produce it, it would be huge, it would be heavy. All I'm trying to say is I don't know what they meant by something that we'd never seen before. All right, now I want to do something I haven't done in a long time, and I want to take you behind the scenes. Sunday is usually a pretty lazy day for me. I woke up this morning, checked the news, didn't really see anything out there. And then, of course, I forgot I had recorded a video last week, and I had scheduled it for Friday, then moved it to Saturday, and then moved it to Sunday. And late Saturday night, I thought of pulling it. I didn't think it really had much to it. I didn't think it was going to do very well, but I let it go. And sure enough, looking at the stats now, it's performing #1 of the videos I put out in the last 2 weeks. For a Sunday video, I mean, that's really, really good. So people are obviously interested in the Sigma lens, but I had just had breakfast and I had reconfigured my camera, set it up, took off the battery grip, put in a battery, remembered to finally put in a CF Express card. I almost got out the door without the CF Express card, switched over to the 100mm macro and thought, I'm going out. I'm not going to talk about cameras. I'm going to actually use and shoot cameras. And then I did a quick refresh and I found some news, the news that I'm covering off today. And let me just check to see if anything else has come through, because I'm planning, as soon as I finish pressing record here, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to shoot. I'll edit later on in the evening. So let's see, any other news coming out? Please don't be anything big. Package schedule for delivery. Oh, that's interesting. Guys, you might want to pay attention. I've got a review coming up in a couple of days. And it's something I've been working on for several weeks now. This is another piece to the puzzle. Yes, okay, can't say anything else about it. Oh, there's something else I have to check. Anyhow, what I'm trying to say is, the problem with having 2 jobs and a family is the thing that I enjoy the most, working with cameras, shooting them. Not shooting the cameras, shooting with the cameras. Shooting a camera would be just a travesty. That's something that Jordan Drake would do. He set them on fire and all sorts of things. No matter how old a camera is, like this Fujifilm. Oh, don't want to remove that mic there. I value the past. There's something tactile about them. Something that connects me to my childhood. And this is a film camera, the Fujimax. The Fujica, sorry, not Fujimax, Fujica. So I wanted to get out and I wanted to get shooting. And it's not easy all the time. I mean, I really love this job because I get to work with cameras and immerse myself in cameras every day. But the one thing that becomes a problem every now and then is actually getting out and shooting, especially at a time like this, as we get up to CP+. Every day is filled with scanning, producing, making content. And I have a couple of review videos in the mix too, and they usually take 30 hours plus each. Not easy to do. And I know I made my bed. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that you know what it's like when you're doing all that administrative stuff in your business. What you'd rather do is actually shoot, and shoot the stuff you really enjoy. Last week, I had the 24-105 f2.8 L image stabilized USMZ. This week, I'm thinking of picking up the 24-70 f2.8. Or maybe I get the 70-200 f2.8 Z. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm thinking of picking it up, having it shipped maybe Thursday. That means I get to keep it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because the couriers don't function over the weekend. And since I have it for 3 business days that the couriers work, maybe I have it show up Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we're supposed to get some rain, so that might work out really, really well. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I just want to let you a little bit behind the scenes that sometimes when you see these videos, sometimes my videos come out as soon as the information is leaked, but sometimes I let them sit for a day. And there's a very good reason for that because the Sigma video is performing very, very well right now. That's what people are interested in right now. So let it sit. I've covered Panasonic, the S1R Mark II, for several days now. Let's give it a break. Let this video come out on Monday morning, early. I'll probably do 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning my time. So that way if I wake up, let's say around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, there's something big, I can record that and schedule that to come out around 10 o'clock. But I do expect another video coming out Monday, today, which is Monday today for you, it's tomorrow for me, giving me exact specifications, such as US pricing. I know there's a lot of questions. I really think a price of around $33, $32.99 is most likely based on the euro price that we're seeing, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyhow, I want to say a big thanks to you for tuning in, watching to the very end of this video. It's very much appreciated. Thanks so much. Also, one other thing too, I've started changing up my videos a little bit. Instead of just putting chapters down, I'm putting in these 5-second chapter breaks. It does actually help me when I'm recording because I can take breaks and catch my breath. But it's another way of kind of, when I put a chapter break in, it just kind of lines up better, and it's a good way to skip through because some people just scrub through, especially on a television. It's a little easier to find when you're just skipping ahead. Let me know in the comment section down below. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great week, a great day, and we'll see you again soon. Most likely, very soon.